Thank you. Our second speaker is Rakefet Zalashik. She's a guest professor at the Moses Mendelssohn Center at the University of Potsdam. Zalashik is the author of 2 books on the history of psychiatry in Palestine and editor of various volumes in Jewish studies and the author of many articles on Jewish history and medicine. Her research includes public health and the Jewish question, trauma and memory, scientific migration, and the transfer and adaptation of scientific ideas. Her talk today is Appetite and Hunger, Perception of Food Among Jews in Eastern Europe Between the 2 World Wars.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you very much for inviting me. Simone, chapeau. Gracia, chapeau. Thank you for the students who, in such a hot day, are preferring or forced to sit here instead of going to the pool, which I would do. I'm not a typical Jewish historian. I'm more a historian of medicine, and that's what my talk is going to be about. So it's a bit shifting from the lectures you've heard till now. Everyone knows that when catching a cold, one might get a lung disease. If you work too hard, you can get a heart disease. But seldom people know that what one is allowed to eat and what food is harmful. These were the opening words of Shaul Pergament to a series of articles titled The Composition of Our Food, published in the Volksgesund, People's Health in Yiddish in 1923. The magazine was part of the press published by the Organization for the Preservation of the Health of the Jews, OZE, in Vilna. Volksgesund was an illustrated, popular scientific journal for hygiene and medicine, which aimed to spread propaganda and educate the Jewish masses in topics of health and hygiene by publishing articles of physicians writing to laymen, usually accompanied by illustrations. The magazine was bi-monthly, and was circulated among the Yiddish readers all around Eastern Europe as well as in Germany. Between 1923 and 1940, around 90 articles on food and nutrition were published in the Volksgesund. Some of the articles, due to their length, were split over a few volumes. This means that almost in every volume there has been an article which was dedicated to food and nutrition. The articles included also recipes, and the readers could address questions about nutrition and the material published on the theme. In this paper, I would like to analyze the articles which appeared in the Volksgesund on food and nutrition in order to understand the reality of Jews in Eastern Europe in the interwar period as reflected in their food consumption, eating habits, and concepts related to food. More specifically, I am trying to answer questions such: what were Eastern European Jews eating? What new foods were they consuming after World War I? What were Jews supposed to eat, and how they were expected by Jewish physicians to treat their nutrition? I argue that the post-World War I was a transitional period for East European Jews, also in the field of food and nutrition. They got access to new food products, they were exposed to new eating habits, which influenced also their health. In modern times, 2 aspects of food and nutrition among the Jews were the focus of scientific interest. The first one was the old fascination, namely the examination of Jewish dietary laws, and especially the Jewish animal slaughter, and the separation between meat and milk according to the new scientific discoveries on nutrition and the digestion system. For Jewish physicians, the dietary Jewish laws were the most important sign of ethical and scientifically intuitive civilization. The other aspect of scientific interest evolved in the mid of the 19th century. From this time onwards, both Gentile and Jewish physicians stated that Jews in Germany suffered 6 times more than Gentiles from diabetes. Diabetes even received the name Judenkrankheit, the Jews' disease. Although some physicians explained it by the racial attributes of the Jews, the majority related it to certain lifestyle features. With the assimilation of German Jews into the Gentile society, many of them joined the wealthier classes in the urban centers. One of the central environmental explanations for high morbidity of diabetes among assimilated German Jews was because they were eating too much, and because they were trying to resemble to the Gentiles with their eating habits. The solution for what was seen really by many Jewish physicians as epidemics was a strict diet and individually designed nutrition programs for the wealthy German Jews. In this sense, the articles in the Volksgesund, which is the topic of my talk today, went well beyond the traditional scientific interest in Jews and food. The journal dealt with a very wide range of topics, starting from vegetarianism and appropriate nutrition, through bad appetite among children and adults, to the impact of warm and cold drinks on the stomach. The themes of the articles can be divided into a few main categories. Articles which dealt with food and Jewish dietary laws, historical and cultural articles on food and nations around the world, nutrition and health, the hygiene of food, which included how and when certain food should be eaten, and the nutrition of certain specific groups such as infant and children, pregnant women, and sick people. The first article which opened the series on nutrition in the Volksgesund in winter 1923 was on vegetarianism, written by Julius Leibbrunner. The editors explained to the readers, I quote, "We are printing this article, which was sent by a dignified author, as a beginning of a series of articles about nutrition that we selected for our journal. It has to be mentioned that during the horrible World War, when people were perished and suffered from starvation, a row of new scientific studies on the impact of certain foods on the physiology were conducted. Another point is that today, in the cultural countries, a mass of people are suffering because they have not enough to eat. But there is also a small part of people who are getting sick because they eat too much or they are eating whatever they love." End quote. After explaining about the vegetarian movement and its principles, Leibbrunner, the author, clarified to the readers that a one-sided nutrition, being either vegetarian or eating only meat, is not good for the human organism. The best combination is a mixed nutrition. He determined that the claim of the vegetarians that meat is harmful was not scientifically proven. He confessed, and this is how probably he got his readers' sympathy, that the problem with meat is that it is very tasty, and therefore you might eat too much of it, which can make you sick. A large part of the articles in the Volksgesund were dedicated to overweight, body fat, and to the question, are we eating too much? The scope of this topic might hint that Jews in Eastern Europe began to suffer in this period from weight gain and from health problems related to it. From a nutrition point of view, Jewish physicians like Arnold Poult, Avraham Neustädter, and others were almost yearning to the war years. I quote, "The war," and they meant World War I, "brought misfortune, but had also an advantage. Diabetes disappeared, and the rate of heart attacks declined. Why? Because everyone ate less." End quote. With the end of the war and the normalization of the daily life alongside the access to food products, Jewish adults ate much and moved themselves too little, according to the authors. The authors who were writing on this topic in the Volksgesund begged their readers to acknowledge the fact that adults, in contrast to children, do not need too much food, and that one does himself a favor when he drinks and eats less. They tried to convince the readers that the first 100 grams of potatoes taste exactly the same as the next 100 grams, and that they should eat moderately. In a series of 10 parts on the hygiene of food, which appeared in 1925, the physician Alexander Kaplan from Vilna talked about the importance of salts and vitamins in the daily diet and the order of eating. He criticized the city people who tended to have their main meals in the second part of the day, and by this causing a damage to their digestion system. He also criticized the incline among the city people to eat more fried food, fried meat, fried fish, herring, fried dough, blinches and latkes, fried onion, fried potatoes, fried eggs, etc. To a certain extent, the fried food was good because it awakened the appetite, but all the stimulating means should be consumed moderately. In our days, Kaplan explained, when the people are nervous and overwhelmed by the constant worries of living, the world is searching for more and more stimulating materials. One does not only search such dishes that stimulate directly the appetite, like spicy dishes and hot drinks, but also things which stimulates the whole nervous system, such special activities, music, etc. Instead, Kaplan emphasized one has to consume natural, healthy, stimulating means and keep distance from harmful one, which first awaken the person but later make him tired and damages his organism. One has to take a balance between happiness and being morally contained and gambling or other unhealthy pleasures such as ether, cocaine, alcohol, and other poisons. Kaplan also discussed the preparation of food. Food should not be overcooked. Too much water brings out the salts, and too much sugar is also damaging. For him, the worst thing was canned food, like sardines, sprotten, herring, and sausages, which because of bacteria might contain poison. Kaplan was concerned not only about what we are eating, but also about how we are eating. Today, he said, when time is money, people are eating too fast, one is chewing badly, the food is too less time in the mouth with the saliva, and food enters the stomach in a state where it needs to be more digested. Kaplan also mentioned the common belief that alcohol and smoking are good for awakening the appetite and helping the digestion system. He warned the readers that alcohol is damaging. Even the smallest portion is not an excuse to use in order to awaken the appetite as something. People used to have a small schnapps before they started eating to open the appetite. And also nicotine had a bad impact on the digestion organs. Now, from all these articles on overweight and body fat and the consumption of dangerous foods and drugs, one could imagine that Jews became really like urban Gentiles with their eating habits and drinking habits, and that this became the focus of concern for Jewish physicians. Whether it's real or not, I would like to discuss in my conclusions. But there is really an overrepresentation of articles on these two topics. They are really concerned. A special group of articles was directed to mothers and to instructions about how to feed the infants and the child. Here as well, feeding too much is an issue. Or going to the doctor complaining that the child does not eat enough. I quote, "Some mothers believe that to make the child happy means to give the child more. Another egg, another glass of milk, another glass of cacao. This is absolutely wrong. One needs already from the first year to educate the child to eat moderately." End quote. Why am I in the dark? I'm Polish, but still. Can I get some light? Because this now is turned off and I'm like... There you go. Thank you. In an article from 1928, I already read in German the numbers, Dr. Schulz warned that mothers are giving too many eggs to children. I quote, "Eggs are an ideal food, especially for children from the age of 2. But life teaches us that every coin has its other side. This is also the case with eggs. Mothers who feed their children with 5 to 6 eggs per day are harming them," end quote. The children might get a rash, they have problems to sleep, and they might suffer from asthma. Children who are healthy are allowed to consume not more than 1 to 2 eggs per day. Many articles dealt with consuming and the preparing of food products, which before were not accessible or hardly accessible to Jews in Eastern Europe. The revolution of agriculture and the transportation revolution brought new food products to the market and made other products cheaper. This was the case with fresh milk and milk products that were consumed before the pasteurization process, mainly by people who lived next to a farm, and in any case was considered to be good only for infants and children. In the 1920s, the milk became consumed by Jews who lived in the city, and we can find articles on why milk is white, about milk for children, kefir and yogurt, as well as about eating milk and meat together in the light of the Jewish law and the scientific findings. Other new products introduced to the Jewish population in Eastern Europe after World War I were wheat and grains, which slowly became affordable and replaced potatoes. A few articles on how to eat wheat and how to prepare various kinds of grains were the focus of several articles. Unfortunately, I'm technologically challenged, so I could not bring you a nice PowerPoint to show you the illustrations in this journal, but on many articles on grain and wheat, there are very nice illustrations of how wheat is looking, how it is being grown, how to prepare it. There are very nice illustrations on the digestion system from the mouth till it goes down. It's very illuminating, yeah. But as I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Whereas the 19th century was the century of discovering protein, carbs, and fat in calories, the 20th century was characterized by the obsession with vitamins. Many articles published in these years in the Volksgesund explains about vitamins and the importance of eating fresh vegetables and fruits. And now we have to remember we're talking only about 3 vitamins till then, A, B, and C. Yeah? Scientific clarifications about vitamin A, B, and C, as well as which food contains them and how to prepare them, were widespread in the magazine. For example, for vitamin A, the physicians recommended to eat tomato, salad, and fresh cabbage. For vitamin B, recommended to eat beans, vegetables like potatoes and oranges, lemons and grapes, etc. And almost every spring, physicians called the readers to eat more vegetables and fruits in the summer, like spinach, spring onion, radish, green salad, and carrot. Now, how am I with time? Okay. Now, one of the problems which is being revealed with reading these articles on food is the problem of food hierarchy, and I'll explain. The value of food from its social and symbolic aspect usually does not go hand in hand with the scientific value of the food. And the consumption of expensive foods such as meat, which was considered by the Jews to be good and functioned also as a symbol of status, were exactly the opposite in the eyes of the Jewish physicians who wrote about food and nutrition in the Volksgesund. So often in the articles, the physicians had to fight against this trend of more expensive food are the best and the healthier, and they had to explain to the readers that the products which are more expensive are not necessarily healthier, and that actually nutrition they offer in their articles, including recipes, which is based on more fresh vegetables and fruit, although cheaper, is by far healthier than fried meat, etc. So for the Jewish physicians, the task was to show is that the healthier food, and not necessarily the tastier or the more expensive one, should be adopted by Jewish population to prevent body fat and related diseases. Now, food and nutrition are a wonderful platform for social historians. So the question is, what can all these 90 articles tell us? So first, I think that more than 90 articles on food and nutrition from 1923 until 1940 is not little. In a semi-popular scientific journal which talks about diseases, etc. It can tell us, for example, about the centrality of the topic among the Jewish physicians in Eastern Europe. It shows us that it was the physicians as a main authority to teach the public about the themes of food and nutrition. It might also show us that there was a demand from the readers to get information about nutrition and how to prepare the food. And it's quite fascinating. There are really, physicians are publishing lists of recipes. They introduce a new product or a new food, and then they give 5-6 ways how to prepare it, very didactically, and one would not expect it from physicians today. One would expect it in cookbooks and people who deal with diet, etc. So I guess that there was a demand, otherwise they would not keep on publishing such articles. Now, at least the first part of the interwar period, Jewish communities experienced a relative prosperity regarding food and nutrition. This included access to new foods and dishes, but it also meant that there was a bigger diversity of food at the table, and that East European Jews could and had to choose what to eat and how, and how to also feed, how would be the best way to feed their children. And this is a new phenomenon. Another question which I already hinted in during the talk is, does the scope of the articles on eating too much and eating unhealthy food really echoes the real problem, really echoes the reality of Jews in Eastern Europe, or was it only very fashionable at this time to write about these topics? This is a question which is hard to answer. I mean, if I compare this article on food and nutrition in the journal to other problems which are dealt in the journal, such certain diseases, so I can definitely say yes. I mean, in other cases of writing articles about other diseases, these diseases were prone and were a problem among Eastern European Jews. So if I try to conclude from this, also eating too much, putting weight and suffering from too much body fat became a problem among Eastern European Jews, which were the audience of this journal. So according to this, Eastern Europeans truly suffered from overweight and body fat. Nevertheless, I think I believe that this has started already earlier than the 20s. I believe that this development started shortly before World War I. It stopped because of World War I and re-evolved after World War I. So there was a certain delay of the reactions of the physicians on this phenomena of eating too much, having body fat, etc. Another point is, I think that the fact that physicians wrote so extensively about dietary and nutrition shows us, and here I refer to things that were said earlier this day, that in the 1920s, Jewish dietary laws were not enough to regulate or to deal with the new nutritional reality of Eastern European Jews. Again, this is... So if I refer to things that were said earlier, the rabbi was replaced by the physician, regarding what to eat. However, I claim that God was not fully replaced by science. And I say it because through all the journals, Jewish dietary laws were backed up by science, okay? And there are not too many articles in the journal, but there are, I think, like 5 or 6 articles that are talking about dietary Jewish laws and try to back up it scientifically. So this is the frame, but they go one step further. So God is not fully replaced by science. He's still there, but science is helping with the new developments. And the last question I want to address, and this was the question which was in my mind when I was reading all these articles, was this uniquely Jewish? Okay, this whole don't eat too much, don't drink too much. And the answer is, of course, no. At this point, at this period, to fill in the stomach scientifically was a characteristic of many parts of the Western world. In this sense, this was not a Jewish unique phenomenon. The only unique aspect was the discussion on Jewish dietary laws in the light of the new scientific evidence. Now, I said last before it, but now I say last. If diet and nutrition is a social signal, one could say that the changes in food consumption in among Eastern European Jews went hand in hand in this period, also with their integration in other fields of the general society, which is familiar to most of us, and I will not repeat. But it seems that changes in their eating habits and food consumptions were yet another aspect in their changing reality and their integration into the non-Jewish society in each of the countries in Eastern Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.